Okay, this is K5DCC with N9 Victor Tango Bravo, George in Chicago. My name is Denny, and I'm in the Digicom Cafe. Well, it's like wherever I go is the Digicom Cafe, which is my paradigm for ham radio. But George and I have been having a great QSO here for, the last 20 minutes, I bet, and really been enjoying talking about building antennas and all kinds of things. So I asked George if he would go ahead and be my guest here on my Radio on the Rocks Cafecast. And we are doing real radio on the rocks on 20 meters on 14.313 right now. So, George, I'm going to turn it over to you. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into the hobby, and what has been the most pleasurable experience of your many years as a ham. Over.
Good afternoon. My name is George, QTH Chicago. My call sign is November, number 9, Victor Tango Bravo. And, I was first licensed in Poland as a Sugar Papa number 5, Golf Oscar Zulu at the age of 15. And, how did I get my interest in amateur radio? I guess I was listening to family shortwave radio, which was very popular in Europe. A lot of people had the radios with shortwave ability, and just got fascinated by listening to signals from all over the world. And one thing led to the other. I just got interested in ham radio, and that continued. When I was 15, I started. Actually, I got my license, and now I am 67, will be almost 68, and still I'm fascinated by that hobby. And, I met a lot of good friends, a lot of very interesting people, and that was always very, very pleasant experience for me to be an amateur radio operator, and I was always very proud of it, always, and helping community in case of some kind of disaster. That's another thing that would be great. I love it. To me, that's wonderful thing. So back to you, Danny. This is N9VTB in Chicago.
Roger, N9VTB from K5DCC. The DCC, by the way, stands for Digicom Cafe. I was fortunate enough to find that when I was looking for a different call sign, and of course I already had the Digicom Cafe paradigm working itself out and doing a lot of podcast interviews and things. So when I found this vanity call, I jumped right on it, and it's been pretty much my identity now for the last 8 years. I'm not a big podcaster like some of the other guys that are out there, but and I'm really focusing more on having other hams tell their experiences to pique interest in amateur radio among anybody that might want to listen to it. Anyway, I know you and I both are kind of interested in building our own antennas. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your radio setup there and what kind of antenna you're using? Over.
Okay, well, I am using Kenwood TS890S, and my antenna is homebrew, 2-element homebrew cubical quad. I wish I could have a bigger cubical quad, 3 or 4 elements. At the one point, I had a 3-element cubical quad, but I am on a city lot in Chicago, so that's 125 by 30, I think. That's my property size. So there is really not that much of room for any big antenna system. But I build quite a few. There is somebody's trying to call me. Sorry about that. I built anything from 8-foot boom to 48-foot boom cubical quad. So and everything in between, pretty much. So that's the experience of building cubical quads, and I'm still fascinated by cubical quads. I think they're just excellent antennas, certainly very, very efficient. And in antenna system, I think efficiency, that's single most important thing. What goes into the antenna, it will go out as a radio wave. So back to you. This is N9VTB.
Well, I'm trying to picture this, George. You say your lot is only 35 feet wide. You must have a tower in the middle of your property then, and when that rotates, does it kind of go over to the neighbors' houses over?
No. I do have a tower. Yes, I do have a 55-foot crank-up tower, and two-element doesn't overlap the neighbors' properties. But even if they would, I wouldn't have no problem whatsoever. Matter of fact, I got permission to overlap property from both sides, which I'm not, because well, there's no need for it really. But I try to be good neighbor, and I have a good neighbors. So just way that works here, we're one happy neighborhood, I guess.
Oh, that's lovely. That means a lot for sure. Tell me about the dimensions of this. And is this a monoband or multiband? Have you got all the spreaders out at an angle so you can have 10 meters and 15 and 20 meters, or is it just a monoband?
This one is a monobander, just strictly for 20 meters. But I build tri-banders, 5-banders. So it's just, and you don't have to have this angled spreaders. That's really, you can match that different ways with that. That would be, a radio will be perfectly happy with the impedance of antenna. So you can use like quarter wavelength transformers, which are made out of 75 ohm coaxial cable, and that will transform from that give or take 100 ohm to 50 ohm, just perfect. And anything which will have a 3-element or more is perfectly happy to be fed directly with a 50 ohm coaxial cable. And well, I did a lot of reading, a lot of experimenting with the cubical quads, and just the same antennas don't last very long by me, because next year you will talk to me and probably I will have a different antenna, because beauty of it is that you change a couple wires and a couple spacings, and all of a sudden you get totally different antenna. In case of Yagi, well, you got to cut some aluminum. In case of cubical quad, you just add some more wire or subtract some wire from your existing antenna, and that's going to be totally different antenna. Back to you, Danny.
N9VTB K5DCC. Well, that's very interesting. So with all your experience, what would you say is the most efficient antenna?
As far as directional antenna, cubical quad, hands down.
Really? Okay. And of course, that the plane of each element is perpendicular to the ground. What would happen if you were to make it horizontal?
I don't understand question well. Some elements are horizontal and some elements are vertical.
No, I mean if you were to take maybe like not a director, I mean a reflector, 2-element quad, but just a single element. Right now it's perpendicular to the ground. What if you were to put that up in the air horizontal to the ground? What would that do at the radiation pattern?
Definitely you will have a lot of reflection from the ground, and most of your signal will go straight to the God.
Yeah, very good. I've been messing with that a little bit with my my mag loop. I had it set where I could put it up on my push pole, and it would be horizontal to the ground to see if it would change the signal strength with the contacts I was making. So anyway, wave patterns are quite a fascinating thing to look at. Are you familiar with EasyNeck?
absolutely. Easy neck, L neck. There's several different necks I play with. So I was just going to say that if you're interested, what will happen if you do something with antenna? Those software will simulate that. Matter of fact, Easy Neck is free now. It's you can download this free of charge, full version.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Well, I know John Portune uses it a lot and shares his results and some of his ideas of how to build a certain kind of antenna. And I've been the one that says, "Hey, let me work on that." So, and you know, it's not that critical. Some of the dimensions, like with the Meg Loop, what I did with mine is I just wanted a 2-foot. I started with a 4-foot, and it was just too cumbersome to haul around. So I said I'd like to have a perfect 2-foot one. I had no idea what it would be resonant at. But put it together and found out the resonant frequency was actually 6 meters. And then with the capacitance tube, I had dropped down to 10 meters, 10 and 11 meters. Beautiful. So I love using my Nano VNA to do a wide band span to check it out and see where the dip is. And then I know what I can use it for.
That's not really 100% correct, but you can think of it this way, that length of elements, that's going to be your resonant frequency. And spacing between elements, that's impedance of your cubical quad. So it's not really, like I said, everything interact with everything when you're building antenna, but that's kind of general rule you can think of. Like I said, I built several different cubical quads, and it was those big ones I built for some friends which had some real estate they could put this antennas on, and they perform very, very, very well. And one thing that applied to all directional antennas, boom length is directly proportional to your gain. Gain is directly proportional to your boom length. So longer boom, more gain you will have. And there is no substitute for length of the boom. Just the way it works. You can't beat the laws of physics.
Yeah.
9MJN.
We got some other guys wanting to jump on the frequency in the middle of our Radio on the Rocks Cafecast here. So anyway, well, George, this has been very, very interesting. I think people will enjoy listening to a real radio QSO here. This is K5DCC with N9VTB. So how about the kind of contacts you've made? You seem like a rag chewer. Who is probably the most exciting contact you've made in terms of DX?
Working New Zealand from portable upper radio. I was driving from Chicago to Detroit, and I had the antenna on top of my truck, and I heard New Zealand. I call him, he came back to me, and by the time I came back from that service call, which was about a week or so, I had a QSL card on my desk. So probably that was the best one. Getting those DX stations with when you get directional antenna, when you get amplifier, you know what? That's not really big challenge. That can happen quite often, but with just whip on the top of your truck and 100 watts, getting New Zealand, that's a little bit more challenging, I think. Back to you.
Roger, N9VTB, K5DCC. Oh, that's very exciting. I've made actual friends and met them, people in New Zealand. Long story, we had a barbecue together when he came to Minnesota to visit his daughter. And then while he was here, his wife got really sick and died of cancer. And so he had to go back home without her. She got so sick she couldn't even fly. It happened very quickly, but we got to have a face-to-face with them, and we met his wife, met his daughter, and it was kind of a long process for him. But he ended up having to sell his home back in New Zealand for a while, and then after his wife passed, then he stopped at our place and said goodbye one last time and went back to New Zealand. But before he came, we were running phone patches for him. Back in the day, we did a lot of phone patches. You probably did too.
Oh yeah. I did run some phone patches in the past. That's a lot of fun actually. And talking about New Zealand, I've never been to the New Zealand, but I've been to the Australia several times. My sister lives in Western Australia, in Perth. So I've been into the Australia many times. Here is kind of funny story. One time I landed in Perth, and there was some young, good-looking girl as officer, immigration officer, and so she looked at my passport. Actually, she looked at probably a computer. So, you're here quite often, right? I said, yeah. I said, I watch Australian border security and try not to look suspicious. And she said, what do you mean? She didn't catch that. I said, well, you're always telling on Australian border security that you're looking for suspicious-looking people. So I try not to look suspicious. And she says, as a joke already, she says, well, what do you think, how that's going to work for you today? I says, well, since I opened up my mouth, I don't know. Might not work very well. She says, no, you're just fine. Have a good stay. So back to you. This is N9VTB.
This is K5DCC. Very cute, very cute. Well, I'm going to let you tie the ribbons on it here, George. Our listeners, some of our listeners may not be ham radio operators as they listen to them on their podcast platform, maybe iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or something like that, or Spotify. What would you say is the main reason people should get into amateur radio? What kind of things is it really beneficial for?
Friendship, camaraderie. You meet a lot of nice people, and we are one happy community, I guess. That's the answer.
All right, very good. Well, I sure have enjoyed my conversation with you, George. God bless you, and may you have many more years of health and enjoy building antennas and making friends around the world. So we'll say 73. Thank you for allowing me to record this and to share it in the Digicom Cafe as another episode of Radio and the Rocks Cafecast. 73, George. God bless.
Yeah, and one more thing I would like to mention that see, when you got cubicle quad, not very many people can jam your signal. When we started, there was some station which was playing music and singing and screaming, and after about 20 minutes or so, they give up because they noticed that they are not very successful trying to jam our signal. That's what cubicle quad will do for you. Take care. 73 N9VTB.
There you go. Well, thanks, George. I think this will be a real interesting podcast.
Yeah, and I sent you a book about cubicle quad.